Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back in an episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode we will discuss playing the Gorvos Crime Syndicate, which will be an Outcast gang that you can use in your campaigns in the Aranthian Succession. In this video we will discuss your strengths and weaknesses and the positive and negatives of playing in Aranthian Succession, as well as your gang's fighters and playstyle. We'll also give you a 2,400 point starting roster and provide other critical information that could help you to enjoy in your campaign in the Aranthian Succession. So with the latest publication dropped by Necromunda with the Twins of Two Tunnels, which is the scenario rules pack from the Apocrypha Necromunda rules from the Warhammer community page, it's now able to actually use the Gorvos twins, both Wunder as well as Gayan the Gun Queen Gorvos, as leaders of an Outcast gang in your future campaigns. And the nice thing about that is because no one's really done a video on actually playing the Gorvos Crime Syndicate, I decided to actually create a video about that, talking about how they would actually interact in the Aranthian Succession. Now, because this video will be a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can navigate to the part that interests you the most. So that being said, let's talk about the positive negatives of playing in the Aranthian Succession. So first of all, let's talk about the positives of playing in the Aranthian Succession. In the Aranthian Succession, if you are planning on staying in the Underhive, you have 2,000 credits to spend to create your gang. If you plan on venturing out the Ash Waste, you get 2,400 credits to spend in the gang as well. In this video, I am going to assume that you want to play both the Underhive as well as the Ash Waste, so my roster will be at 2,400 points. Now, what's interesting about this is that a lot of people believe that when you see this increased point value, a lot of people get the negative believing that what Games Workshop wants you to do is to take your standard 1,000 point gang and then double it, meaning that you have to buy 2 box sets worth of miniatures, twice as much money being spent on your miniatures in order to create this gang. But it's actually a common misconception, and the reason why that's the case is because with the increased credit limit that you have for your gang, the way you want to do it is going for a quality of build rather than a quantity of build to equip your fighters accordingly. So instead of having a roster of, let's say, 20 fighters, you just have your typical 10 fighters, but you give them everything they need to be successful. Things like better weapons, better equipment, better armor, war gear that you would not necessarily purchase for your gang at the beginning of a campaign. You could actually save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of trial and error by just purchasing those things ahead of time, and that way your gang is fully equipped to deal with whatever comes their way in the campaign. So along with those positives of playing in Aranthian Succession, there also are some pretty serious negatives for it. The obvious one is going to be the balance bandwagon. Unfortunately, not all the gangs have received support from the Aranthian Succession. So far, by the point of this video being made, there's only a handful of gangs that actually have additional vehicle crews and things of that nature. So because of that, if you are playing against people who have gangs who have not received that support, for example, like Van Sar or like Dillax, for example, they haven't really received a lot of support from the Aranthian Succession with new fighters and vehicles and weapons, etc. They might throw a little bit of a hissy fit because of that. So if that does pop up, just deal with that immaturity and just move on for the most part as well. And like I said before, a lot of people get a really bad attitude about that 2,000 or 2,400 credit limit, and they think that you got to double your existing gang, but you don't have to. And like I said before, we'll talk about that when we actually break down to the gang list as well. Another negative aspect about this is that there's also a lot of narrative play involved with the Aranthian Succession, so you may not be into much when it comes to narrative play. If that's the case, this campaign might not be for you. Just be aware that a lot of the scenarios are narrative based in this campaign setting. So now that we're done talking about playing the positive and negative effects of playing in Aranthian Succession, let's talk about how the Gorvos Crime Syndicate fits into this time period as well as this campaign setting. So once again, when it comes to your Gorvos Crime Syndicate, it will be an Outcast gang, and traditionally speaking, Outcast gangs are kind of like behind a lot of other gangs because they don't have a lot of weapons equipment available to them. However, though, this will not be the case with your gang because you have twice as many points that you can spend on your core gang, and you can equip them with all the gear they need to be successful. Things like armor, photo goggles, respirators, suspensors for heavy weapons, weapon attachments, exotic beasts if your gang is able to have that. So if you always wanted to purchase those things for your gang right off the bat, you could do so with the Gorvos Crime Syndicate as well as your Outcast gang as well. So that part's kind of nice. And if you are planning on going to the Ash Waste, you can upgrade your vehicles with weapons, equipment, war gear that they need to be successful as well for your gang. You do have that 400 point credit limit that they give you for your mounted fighters as well as your vehicles they add to your roster, but you can actually dip into your core 2,000 points if you really want to equip mounted fighters Same thing with vehicles as well for your gang, so that's something you want to keep in mind as well. At the same time, when it talks about this gang is going to be what's known as a criminal outcast gang, which means they gain the criminal organization alliance, which means that you'll need to pick a criminal alliance to belong to when you actually create your gang. So because of that, if you decide to actually go with that criminal alliance and make that affiliation, it's going to be very important for you to figure out which criminal alliance you want to go with in order to get the most benefit for your gang. And I will talk about that a little bit more when we get to the alliance system with this gang as well. Another thing to remember about the Gorvos Crime Syndicate is that your gang will be able to purchase gunk bombs for your gang. They only cost 20 credits apiece. In case you're wondering what it is, it's a low strength 3-inch blast template weapon. You can find the rules for this in the book of the Book of Peril that came out a couple of years ago. And what it does is basically it actually slows down your enemy fighters if they get hit with the gunk condition. So they lose 1 inch to their movement allowance, and they also lose the D3 inches they would get for their charge actions as well. So if you really want to control your enemy's movement, gunk bombs are the way to go. Another added benefit is that if you throw gunk at your enemy, they're much easier to set on fire with the blaze condition. Usually whenever you use a flamer weapon, you got to roll a 4 up on a D6 in order to see if your opponent catches on fire. If you hit your opponent with a gunk weapon and then try to use a weapon with flame attacks with the blaze condition on it, that jumps up to a 2+, which means you're pretty much reliably setting people on fire, which is a great tactic to use in order to scatter your opponents, create some chaos, so that way you can exploit their strength, exploit those weaknesses, and then destroy your gang as well. So that's something you want to keep in mind as well. At the same time, your gang will also be quite large in terms of the number of champions that will be available for your gang. In the Aranthian succession, you're allowed twice as many champions to make up your gang, and most of my builds, I just stick with the typical 2 champions for the most part, just because that's what most players have. But in an Outcast gang, the champions are a little bit more important in an Outcast game, because these are your quality fighters. So this gang will actually take advantage of full maximum amount of 4 champions for your gang in order to help you be successful on this. So now that we're going to talk about how the Gorvos Crime Syndicate fits in the Aranthian succession, let's talk about alliances real quick. So like I said before, in your alliances, you will be considered what's called known as a criminal organization outcast gang, which means that you must pick one of the criminal alliances to act as the core of your gang as well. Now, you don't necessarily need to use the delegation from that gang, but that will be the organization that you're allied with throughout your entirety of your campaign. So because of that, it's going to be very important to figure out which criminal alliance you want, because once you make that criminal alliance, that is the only alliance you can make for the remainder of the campaign. Now, when it comes to your gang, as well as the alliance you should make, the thing with your gang is that because you're an outcast gang, having quantity of fighters is not going to be all that difficult for you. Your fighters are very cheap. The weapons they use are very cheap as well. So if you take any losses, you can easily replace them as well. So you don't really need to rely on groups that have large alliances, like, for example, the Rogue Factoria with their work party gang, or with the Narco Lords with their hive scum that they can bring. So if you're worried about having the quantity of fighters, I would kind of shy away from that, because that's not going to be a problem for your gang. What is going to be a problem for your gang, though, is the quality of your fighters. Unfortunately, as an outcast player, your fighters are not going to be all that great. I mean, they can do their jobs, but they're not overly fantastic at what they do. So making an alliance with a criminal syndicate that has good fighters, or fighters of quality, is going to be very, very important for you to make that alliance. In my opinion, there are basically 3 major criminal alliances that you should go with when it comes to the Gorvos Syndicate. The first one are the Cold Traders. The Cold Traders obviously make an excellent criminal alliance. You get access to Xeno weapons. You can also use some of the same weapons that are available in their starting rosters to purchase, like sling guns, for example, for your gang if you want to. Not to mention, you also got the Shore Smuggling Party, which in itself is a very powerful delegation that you can call for your gang. It's kind of like a good balance of numbers, because you have 4 fighters on that. At the same time, your Voidborn Hive Scum are actually quite tough. Same thing with your Cold Traders. So that's something you might want to take in mind. Another one is the Imperial Imposters Alliance, would also be very good for you as well. The reason why is because you can also use a lot of game manipulation for outlaw status for your gang, and because your outcast gang is an outlaw gang, that automatically come with that outlaw status, but using that Imperial Imposters ability to remove outlaw status could open a lot of doors for you as well, which could really be helpful for your gang development. Not to mention, the Master Charlatan's also no slouch either. This character is really excellent for stealth missions, and actually really good for character assassinations as well, so you also get that benefit too. However, in my opinion, the best criminal alliance to actually take for your Gorvos Crime Syndicate would be the Fallen Houses. The reason why the Fallen Houses would actually make the most sense is because, one, narratively it works. After all, the Gunk Queen Gorvos is the name of your gang's leader, and Wunder, her brother, they see themselves as fallen nobles who have to scrape a living by in the Underhive. So narratively, it fits very much the aesthetic as well as the design of their characters. But at the same time, on a practical reason, the Fallen House Alliance is excellent for generating income for your gang, also generating reputation for your gang as well. You'll be fighting against a lot of law enforcement as well as lawful gangs, so that's going to really help you out as well. And if your enemies have any alliances with noble houses or with guilds, you also get additional buffs to your reputation as well as your income. So that's kind of nice as well. Not to mention, you also get the Fallen Rebel Lord, who could also be really helpful as they're also a quality fighter as well. So in my opinion, the Fallen House is probably the best criminal alliance you can make, but like I said before, it's entirely based on your preferences, so choose accordingly. So now that we're done talking about alliances, let's talk about brutes, hanger-ons, as well as hired guns. Now when it comes to brutes, hanger-ons, and hired guns, your Gorvos Crime Syndicate is actually going to have a couple of interesting options going on for it. Obviously, the most important hanger-on for your gang is the Road Dog. Having that ability to patch your big gang fighters if they suffer a critical injury, very, very important. At the same time, the Road Dog is filled on the battlefield. They can really help out with removing flesh wounds as well as wounds for your fighters. Invaluable hanger-on, of course. Now, the thing though you gotta remember though is that because your gang is an outlaw gang, that means you can only really hire outlaw brutes, outlaw hanger-ons, as well as outlaw hired guns. And to be fair, it's quite a mixed bag of quality and horrible stuff available for your gang, so you do have to kind of pay attention to see what you're doing and choose accordingly. In my opinion though, and this goes for any Outcast gang, not just for the Gorvos Crime Syndicate, but your best hanger-ons aside from a Rogue Dog will be your Propagandist as well as your Agitator. The Agitator and the Propagandist can help boost up your reputation gains in a Dominion campaign, for example, or if reputation is really important to you. Between the Propagandist and the Agitator, if you actually have both those guys, you could actually increase your reputation score by 6 points after every single battle, if you win the battle, that is, of course. So that's something you might want to take in consideration. The more reputation you generate, the more hired guns and the more brutes you can hire, and of course more better perks break up for your gang. So that might be something you want to take into account. At the same time, with the release of the Twins of Two Tunnels apocryphal rules that came out, that could also be another thing that you want to look into as well. And the reason why is because not only did they actually talk about the creation of the Gorvos Crime Syndicate in that additional rules, they also gave some additional stuff for the Agitator as well as the Propagandist as well. In fact, they can take basic actions and actually help build up your gang. For example, they have the Rally Allies action, which the Propagandist can actually basically activate with all friendly fires over 12 inches. They add +1 to their cool characteristics until the end of the turn. Whereas an Agitator can also use the Rile Them Up basic ability, and what that does is that all friendly fighters within 12 inches add +1 to their movement characteristic for the end of that turn. So those are some things that those two hanger-ons could actually help out for your gang as well. At the same time, when it comes to brutes, you actually get access to outlaw brutes, which are actually an interesting mix of things. Probably the most important things will probably help you out with the Sump Beast. The Sump Beast, even though it's super expensive to recruit for your gang, they can do a lot of things. They just tear your opponents apart if you actually use that as well, which is something that you might want to take in consideration for that. You could also use the Warp Terror. It's also the good one. Same with the Scrap Code, Ambot. These are all excellent brutes with really interesting rule sets as well. So now that we're done talking about brutes, hanger-ons, hired guns, let's go and talk about your starting roster. Alright, so let's talk about your starting roster. This is the Gorvos Crime Syndicate starting roster for the Aranthian session. Your gang will be rating at 2,395 points, and you'll be an Outcast gang with the criminal organization affiliation, and the affiliation you're going to go with is Fallen Houses, so that way you're Rebel Lords, because that kind of makes sense narratively as well as practically for your gang. So let's talk about your list. First of all, your leader is going to be the Dramatis Personae Gan, the Gun Queen Gorvos. She's going to cost 285 credits. She's going to be the leader of your gang, and she automatically comes with the Mastermind archetype due to the Twins of Two Tunnels rule set that came out. You're going to buy her an armored undersuit for 25 credits, and combine with her mesh armor gives her a 4-up armor save. She does have gunk bombs, and you're going to replace her autogun with an autogun / flamer combo weapon, so that way you can shoot at opponents and also set them on fire. Like I said before, we're going to be using a lot of flamer templates in this list, because you get that 2-up for the blaze condition if you use gunk bombs, so that's going to be really nice to have. Throwing knives are good because you can attack with silence. You can also to use your sword in close combat. She has the backstab skill as well as nerves of steel skill as base, and because she's the mastermind archetype, we're gonna give her Medicae so that way she can also patch up your fighters as the battlefield develops. After all, with the updated rulebook, she'll gain experience for helping out her fighters that way. Now your first champ is going to be Gorvos. He's going to cost 170 credits. Once again, he is also a Dramatis Personae as well. He is going to be one of your champions, and he automatically gets the Survivor archetype from the Twins of Two Tunnels rule pack. Now he comes equipped with mesh armor, but you're going to purchase a armored undersuit for him to give him that 4-up armor save. He automatically comes with a shotgun with solid and scatter shot, as well as 2 gold-plated master-crafted stud guns, which are actually kind of cool, and he also has a sword as well. He automatically comes with the rain of blow skills as well as step aside skill, and because he's a Survivor archetype, we're giving him the fearsome skill on top of that. That way your opponents have to pass willpower tests in order to charge him. Now granted, Gorvos is kind of a fop, but he's a scary fop. So after that, you're going to have 3 other champions in this gang. Champions 1 and 2 will be equipped exactly the same at 190 credits. Both will have the gunslinger archetypes. Both will have mesh armor for that 5-up armor save. Both will have auto guns with flamer combo weapons, so that way they can shoot their auto guns and set opponents on fire with the flaming attacks. They also got stub guns, and they both have the fast shot ability, so that way they can shoot twice with either flamers or with auto guns. And like I said before, you're going to really exploit those gunk bombs as plus 2-up blaze test, so you should be using flamers whenever possible to set your opponents on fire. Outcast champion number 3 is going to cost 205 credits. This character's got the gunslinger archetype as well. This person also has mesh armor for a 5-up armor save, and you're equipping this fighter with twin auto pistol with hand flamer combat pistols and fast shots. There'll be a way they can shoot off 4 times with their auto pistols or with their hand flamers. Once again, exploiting that gunk bomb ability to actually set your opponents on fire in a 2+. That's what's really going to help you out. Now after that, you're going to have 5 Outcast Hive Scum. All 5 will be equipped exactly the same at 90 credits apiece. All 5 will have mesh armor for that 5-up armor save, a stub gun for that normal short range shooting, they'll have a flail for close combat, and they will all be equipped with gunk bombs. Gunk bombs will be the primary weapon these guys use. They'll be throwing those at your opponents, hopefully getting those accurate shots and gunking your opponents, slowing their movement down as well, taking their ability to get that D3 inches on the charge, so that way you can really control your enemies, and better yet, set them on fire on a 2-up with all the blaze weapons that you have from your champions as well as your leaders. So that's really how it's going to kind of work in concert with one another. Then for your hanger-on, you're going to have a road dog for 50 credits for obvious reasons. This road dog will be equipped with the last pistol with Medicae kit as well as Medicae skill. Now you will also have 3 Scum Racers in your gang as well. All 3 will be equipped with photo goggles. Scum Racer number 1 is going to cost you 275 credits with their photo goggles, as well as a Ridge Runner equipped with a mining laser, so that way they can do those long range shooting at high value targets as well as harder targets as well. Scum Racer number 2 is going to cost you 265 credits. They're also equipped with photo goggles and a Ridge Runner, but the Ridge Runner has a motor, so that way they can hit those larger blast templates on their enemies as well. And then you have Scum Racer number 3 is going to cost you 315 credits. This person's also got photo goggles and a Ridge Runner, but their Ridge Runner is equipped with a missile launcher with frag and crack missiles. That way you get that blast template weapon, also that stronger crack missile to take on enemy vehicles as well. And if your campaign allows for an alliance, for your alliance with this one, because you're going to be affiliated with the Fallen Houses, you're going to have the Fallen Houses Criminal Alliance, which means you're going to get all the benefits associated with that, getting those bonuses to reputation, as well as 2 credits for fighting against lawful gangs, as well as gangs allied with merchant guilds, as well as gangs allied, and also enforcer gangs as well. So it's going to be really nice for you. And the nice part about this is that you're actually going to use your Robo Lord, you're going to use Lady Credo, which is the Dramatis Personae character from the Book of the Outcast. She's also the big shaker and mover in the Underhive right now with the Aranthian Secession. She's actually a key figurehead, so she's going to be in your gang as well. She's an extremely good fighter who has an armor weave cloak, which acts as light carapace armor. She also has a master crafted power saber as well as a master crafted last pistol. She has a refractor field for that 5-up armor save as well. She also has dodge, iron will, and parry in her skills this set, just even deadlier. And the most important part about her is she has the heir to the Outlands special rule, which means that you can use her psychology stats as a leader would be using them for their gang as well. So she's kind of like a good second in command character to help bolster the horrible psychology stats that your Outcast gang is going to have. She also has Sinistus as well as Dexterous, which is her 2 Cervical Skulls, which give her 360-degree field of view, and I believe they also act as photo goggles for her too. And I believe that also helps her out as well. And that's going to make up your starting roster at 2,395 points for the Gorvos Syndicate. So now that we're done talking about the roster, let's talk about how you're going to be using this gang in the gang overview. Alright, so let's go and talk about the gang overview and how you're going to use this gang on the tabletop. You're going to basically have 3 fire teams. You have 2 assault fire teams as well as a support fire team. Now, Assault Fire Team number 1 will consist of Gang Gorvos, your leader, as well as Outcast Champion number 1 and 2. These are the ones who are armed with the Autogun Flamer combo weapons, as well as Outcast Hive Scum number 1 and Outcast Hive Scum number 2. Now, what these guys will do, of course, is that they'll also be running on Scum Racer number 2, which is the Ridge Runner that's equipped with the motor. So what's going to happen is this: your vehicles are going to move up as quick as they can, your fighters will dismount and also fight as normal, okay? Alongside with Assault Fire Team number 2, which consists of Wunder Gorvos, as well as Outcast Champion number 3, that's the champions armed with the twin auto pistols with hand flamers, as well as Lady Credo, and Lady Credo is actually the unofficial second command of this fire team as well. And then you have Outcast Hive Scum number 3 and Outcast Hive Scum number 4, which also consists of Scum Racer number 3, which is the Ridge Runner that is equipped with a missile launcher. Now, like I said before, these two assault fire teams will close distance towards the enemy's fighters, using their Ridge Runners to get into closer combat. The Hive Scum will then dismount alongside the champions and heroes. Those Hive Scum will then throw gunk bombs while the champions set the enemies on fire with those flaming attacks, and hopefully if you manage to hit your opponents with the gunk bombs, you can then set them on fire with a 2+ on the blaze rolls, and what that's going to do is going to cause your enemy's front to collapse. Guys will scatter, they'll be burning, they'll be taking damage, which will allow you to basically steamroll over your enemy as well. While this is happening, your Scum Racers will then be providing long-range shooting with their missile launcher, as well as with their motor, just letting down those long-range shots, blowing up softer targets with their frag shots, as well as after harder targets with things like vehicles and high-value targets like that. Now, your support fire team will consist of Scum Racer number 1, which is the Scum Racer in the Ridge Runner with the mining laser. This person's job is to remain mobile at all times, pretty much driving around the periphery, sniping at hard targets like enemy vehicles, for example, or at high value targets like leaders, champions, etc., using that mining laser to great effect. In the future, I would recommend purchasing some fighters to go with this Scum Racer, probably equipped with longer range weapons like las guns with telescopic sights, or maybe auto guns if you want to get a little more close in support, so that way they can also lay down some suppressive fire on your enemy as well. And that's pretty much how you would pretty much use this gang on the tabletops in your game of Necromunda. So now that we're done talking about the gang overview as well as the gang roster, I'm going to do something a little bit different this one and talk about gang development, about how you can actually increase this gang and what you need to do in the future as your campaigns develop. Now, over time, as this game develops throughout the campaign, my first suggestion to you would be to recruit a propagandist and an agitator as soon as possible. The reason why is because you can get some serious buffs to your reputation for your gang, getting increased to 6 reputation every single time you win a game, for example. At the same time, they can also help with recruitment as well, allowing you to do rerolls or add roll dice rolls to increase your gang size naturally. Hopefully, the idea is supposed to be here that if you have these two hanger-ons and if you take any losses, you can just get new fighters being recruited and just equip the equipment from the old ones as well, which will help you out. And like I said before, when it comes to hiring more fighters, hire more Outcast Hive Scum equipped with either auto guns or las guns for longer range fire. Mount them on Scum Racer number 1 so that way they can do some longer range shooting and also provide some more suppression for your gang. Because your gang, the way it sits right now, is very much a close combat oriented list, so that's something you want to take in command as well. And if possible, as your gang develops, purchase bolter weapons if you can. Combat bolters with flamers make perfect weapons for your champions and for your heroes, especially if you equip them with gunk rounds. They only cost 15 credits to do so, but allows you to put your gunk trait on your enemy with your bolters, and then you can set them on fire with that 2-up blaze condition, which can be really helpful as well. So that's how you go about developing your gang as your campaign continues. So now that we're done talking about gang development, let's give our overall conclusion about this gang. So as always, equipping your gang and upgrading them to be in the Aranthian Succession is a great way to fully equip your gang with powerful weapons, war gear, as well as vehicles, with new rules dropping for new vehicles, as well as new hanger-ons and brutes and exotic beasts and bounty hunters, as well as new fighters being available for gangs as the campaign develops. It could be a really fun way to equip your gang of your dream. And once again, always keep this in mind. Always keep the mind of quality of fighters over the quantity of fighters. So instead of doubling your numbers, just equip your gang fully with everything they need to be successful on the tabletop, which is also nice as well. So that's going to do it for this one. This is my take on the Gorvos Crime Syndicate for your games of Necromunda and the Aranthian Succession. As always, I will be dropping future videos like this in the future with the Aranthian Succession with gang lists to help you out on your Necromunda journey. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for any news and progress on the hobby aspect on this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.